Hurricane Laura became the first major hurricane of the Atlantic season at 8 a.m. Eastern time with winds of 115 miles per hour. Big change from the 5 o'clock in the morning advisory is that big pressure dropped from 973 millibars to now 963. That's a sign of rapid strengthening. We also are seeing an eye for the first time this morning. This storm looking very healthy, and it's going to continue to rapidly intensify as it gets closer to the coast. The buoys out in the Gulf of Mexico reporting big-time wind gusts up to 107 miles per hour. This buoy right by the eye wall also had waves as high as 35 feet. By the way, that buoy has sea surface temperatures yesterday of 87 degrees, so the water is just unbelievably warm as Laura arrives along the Gulf Coast. Putting this on standstill, I want to show you this eye, which is not perfectly defined yet, but it's definitely getting there with these storms wrapping around it. That's going to help build the eye wall where you see that magenta color. Those are the cooler cloud tops indicating those more intense thunderstorms. And so as that continues to grow, we're going to continue to see more and more strengthening with Laura. Expected to become a Category 4 hurricane later today and make landfall as one. Now by Thursday, 2 a.m. Eastern time, 1 a.m. Central time, winds will be 120 miles per hour. Laura expected to make landfall just after midnight on the Texas-Louisiana border. Now this is to the west of Houston, but Lake Charles, definitely one of the many places that are going to be impacted possibly directly by Laura. And the east side of a storm is called the dirty side for a reason. We're going to be seeing heavy rain as well as severe weather well away from the center, especially to the east of it. Then the storm drags into Arkansas, parts of Tennessee, and then eventually the mid-Atlantic. But as it does so, it's going to continue to weaken over land. Still dropping a lot of rain, though. We'll show you that in a minute. But first, let's talk a different type of flooding. We have storm surge, 10 to 15-foot storm surge where this storm makes landfall, and just to the east of it as well possible. Then we have the lower storm surge, especially farther to the west. So if you're west of Galveston, you're looking at minimal storm surge, but still some rise in water possible. If you're to the east of Galveston Bay, that's when the storm surge becomes significant. We're not looking at any major storm surge in the New Orleans area, just under a storm surge watch. So that's good news for that metro. Now, as far as wind threats, definitely significant. When you're under that hurricane warning, that means that hurricane force winds 74 miles per hour or greater is expected. And along the coast, 100 mile per hour wind gusts very likely, especially with a landfalling Category 4 hurricane. So when does this arrive? I mean, it's going to get breezy this afternoon, but when you're in the yellow, that's your power outage, your trees down, it's not safe to be outside kind of weather. And that arrives as early as 8 to 10 o'clock tonight along coastal Louisiana and parts of eastern coastal Texas. So Port Arthur could be getting in that 40+ mile per hour wind gust by 10 p.m. tonight. Galveston Island looking breezy. Houston, maybe a little bit breezy, but you are going to be far enough west from this system that the worst of it is definitely missing the metro area. So that's good news. A lot of forest just to the east of Houston, and it looks as if the strongest winds could be in that spot until you get closer to the border. This is going to potentially be that landfall. So hurricane force winds in red. This is definitely dangerous wind gusts, and that's going to continue for several hours overnight, so it's going to be dark as the storm makes landfall. Port Arthur, Lake Charles in on this for about 3 to 6 hours, and then by noontime clearing out rapidly. But look at Shreveport, northern Louisiana, southern Arkansas, looking at the tropical storm force wind gusts. You know, winds in excess of 40 miles per hour at times, enough to knock trees down and power well away from the coast. So that is definitely a concern even as we head into Arkansas, but it's not as much of a concern. However, there will be severe thunderstorms as well as tornadoes along and to the east of the center, some to the west as well, but especially to the east of the center of Laura, we are worried about the potential for some severe weather. As far as rain, because it's a fast-moving storm, we're not talking about significant flooding, but 4 to 8+ inches of rain that's enough to definitely create flooding. And in some spots, we could see closer to a foot of rain, but it looks as if most of that would be very localized. But even as this storm reaches depression status over Arkansas, notice western Arkansas still in excess of 4 inches of rainfall, and some of that could happen very quickly. So definitely can't shy away from that possibility. So again, Laura, our 4th hurricane of the season, first major hurricane. This season is not over yet. We're going to continue to keep you updated on Laura, as well as any other systems that develop over the next couple of weeks. I'm meteorologist Alex Calamia. Stay safe.